the first tree, we see Judas and Silas. They are not apostles like Peter, nor great missionaries like Paul. Yet, a critical moment in the church, they become instruments of unity, clarity, and encouragement. The church in Jerusalem had just resolved the controversy about circumcision. This is the first Jerusalem council we all had. When there is a controversy, there is a ecumenical meeting. This is the first Jerusalem council was gathered when Jesus sent the people outside for preaching. The first circumcision was discussed there, the first Jerusalem council. Now we all know in the second Vatican Council, which gave the tremendous changes in the churches. Before many ecumenical councils, many other councils took place, like the First Vatican Council, Second Vatican Council, Lateran Council, and outside the Vatican, there were many councils took place. Among all the councils, as I said, we know only the Second Vatican Council. But this is the first Jerusalem Council which took place, which is mentioned in the Acts of the Apostles regarding the circumcision. After prayer and discernment, the apostles decided not to impose unnecessary burdens on the Gentile believers. They did not simply send the letters to Paul and Barnabas. They also sent Judas and Silas to respect the members of Jerusalem church so that the message would be trustworthy. The first Jerusalem council, they were deciding whether to have circumcision or not. Not only the Jews, outside there, the Jewish people called diaspora Jews. They decided circumcision is only an external sign, which is not necessary. Instead, they decided to have other things. First, food polluted by idols, sexual immorality, meat of stand animals, and blood. Instead of having the circumcision, we should follow these four things: food polluted by idols, sexual immorality, meat of stand animals, and blood. When we avoid these things, we keep up the faith of the Christianity. As I said this week, circumcision, if it is imposed, we all have to do, because it is only an external sign. We are not compelled to do. Means meaningfully we never do. But when we ask to follow these four things: food polluted by idols, sexual immorality, meat of stand animals, and blood, we could not eat. We fail to keep up all these rules and regulations because it is internal. For example, Friday we don't eat meat. Sometimes when we go to a restaurant, we go for Friday, we eat meat. After eating meat, we go for confession. After eating meat. Sometimes after eating, we realize that today is a Friday. Sometimes willfully we forget. Sometimes by knowingly we forget. Because we want to eat meat. That's the external sign. That's why the first Jerusalem council, they did not emphasize on the circumcision. It's the external sign. They were emphasizing the internal sign, that food polluted by idols, sexual immorality, meat of stand animals, and blood. This reveals the transparency and wisdom of the early church. They sent two witnesses because they shared testimony given by the early church, and it is a credibility. Judas and Silas, they were not sent only to promote themselves, but they were sent to promote the church. They are representing the apostles' committee, what they have decided. They not only vary the other things, they are represented by the church, what they have decided. Paul and Silas, they teach three things to us. First, they teach us the fidelity. As Christians, which are messengers of gospel, of hope, and of truth. Second, Judas and Silas were not only carriers of the letter, they not only simply carried the letter which was decided by the apostles' committee, rather they have to interpret what the message is. That's why it is said in the first reading, what is in the letter, what they speak, the words from the mouth has to correspond to the letter, should not contradict. Third, the content of the letter is deeply important. What is that? Is given the four things: food pollution by idols, sexual immorality, meat of the scattered animals, and blood. These has to be avoided, is said. Otherwise, still we follow only the external signs. Do not place on them only the burdens beyond these essentials. The early church understood that religion must not become a heavy burden. The part of the faith is communion with Christ. This was one of the reasons also that Catholic Church, we are not paying tithe. For other denominations, they pay tithe because it is compulsory. It has to come from our heart, willingly willing to do the charity, not by compulsory. If it is a compulsory, it becomes a burden. That's why we remove that. The community rejoiced because of the encouragement. This is the mark of authentic Christian ministry when we do by faith. Judas and Silas invite us to become people of fidelity, wisdom, and encouragement. How they represent the church today when we read scriptures.